All right, so we're diving into financial freedom today.
A topic I know is near and dear to your heart.
It is, and, judging by the material you sent over, I think a lot of our listeners are really wanting to explore this too.
For sure, it's something everyone thinks about.
Definitely. And I'm really excited to be using the cash flow quadrant as our guide for this deep dive.
Yeah.
I have to say, Robert Kiyosaki, he definitely has some thought-provoking ideas.
Yeah, sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
But he always, gets you thinking.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we're all about here. So for those who might be unfamiliar, the cash flow quadrant is this model that divides people into 4 categories based on how they earn their income.
And it really gets to the heart of their mindset about money, too, which is really fascinating.
Okay, so remind me, how does this quadrant actually break down? Because I remember it's about more than just what your job title is.
Right, exactly. It's more about the source of your income and your relationship with money. So you've got your employees, the S, you're self-employed, the SS, your business owners, or BS,
Yeah.
and your investors, the SS.
All right, so let's break those down a little bit further. So an employee, they value that steady paycheck, may be a bit afraid of not having that security.
Right. They like the consistency, the knowing that paycheck is coming every week or every other week.
Makes sense. I mean, we all have bills to pay.
Exactly.
And then you have your self-employed. They're the ones who really crave that independence, being their own boss.
The freedom.
Yeah, like think of doctors running their own practice.
Yeah, or freelancers, consultants.
Yeah, totally. Or like independent contractors.
Exactly.
And they might really fear like having someone else dictate their income.
Yeah, they want to be in control, call the shots.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's shift to the other side of the quadrant. And we get into the realm of the business owners.
Right.
So these are the folks who have really built something bigger than themselves, like a system.
Yeah, they're not just trading their time for money anymore.
Right, like it generates income even when they're not directly involved.
That's the key difference.
So they're really focused on building and leading teams.
Right. Creating something that can potentially run without them.
So like a franchise owner would be a good example.
Exactly. Or someone who builds a company and then can step back a little bit.
Totally. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we have the investors. They've made their money work for them.
Yes.
And they're really focused on growing that wealth through investments, not just, trading their hours for dollars.
Right. It's a classic idea of passive income.
Yeah, and Kiyosaki has this great analogy to illustrate this whole concept. It's the pipeline versus the bucket, right?
I love that story.
Okay, so for those who haven't heard it, imagine 2 people. Their job is to get water to their village. One person, they're just constantly hauling buckets back and forth.
Exhausting, right?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, so much work. And then the other person, they're like, okay, I'm going to build a pipeline. Much smarter. So much smarter in the long run.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that pipeline, that's what we want.
That's the goal.
That's those systems or investments that are just generating income even while you're, sleeping.
Even while you're on vacation.
Ideally on a beach somewhere.
Exactly. That's the dream, right?
That's the dream.
Yeah.
But does that mean, like, everyone has to be a B or an I to achieve financial freedom?
That's a good question. Because I think a lot of people might assume that those are the only paths.
But I think that's why understanding the cash flow quadrant is so important. It's not about saying one quadrant is better than the other. It's just recognizing that each one comes with its own, advantages, challenges.
Yeah, its own mindset.
Right.
Its own skill set.
Yeah, and Kiyosaki even argues that the left side of the quadrant, so like the E and the S, it can be riskier than it appears.
That's always a controversial statement, right?
It is, but I think he has a point. Because most people, they think, oh, a steady job, that's the safest bet.
Yeah, that's the conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
But he actually talks about his own educated dad who, had a very successful career, but really struggled financially.
So what was it about that E quadrant that made it so risky for him?
Well, taxes played a big role.
Oh, yeah.
As he earned more, his taxes went up.
Makes sense.
And he also took on more debt to kind of keep up with a certain lifestyle.
Ah, so the trap of lifestyle inflation. You make more, but you spend more.
Exactly. And it's like he was always chasing that higher income, but it just led to more financial burden, not more freedom.
Oh, wow. So he was almost working harder to stay in the same place.
Yeah, that's the thing. People think that a higher income equals more freedom, but that's not always the case.
Right. And this is where I think Kiyosaki really hits on something so important. Financial literacy.
Yes. That's crucial.
Like really understanding how money works, the difference between an asset and a liability.
Yeah, knowing where your money is going and how to make it work for you.
And this is especially key for those who want to move to that right side of the quadrant, like the B and the I.
Absolutely, because that's where you really need to be savvy with your money.
Right.
Make smart investments.
And he has this really unique perspective on assets and liabilities, especially when it comes to like housing. Yeah.
Yeah, that goes against what a lot of people believe.
It does. Most people would say, my house is my biggest asset.
Right. Especially if it's paid off.
Right. But Kiyosaki really challenges that idea.
Yeah, he argues that your house is actually a liability because it's always taking money out of your pocket.
Oh, interesting. So, like, think of property taxes, maintenance, insurance.
Exactly, all those ongoing costs.
And even if you don't have a mortgage, there are still expenses.
Always.
And if you stop paying those property taxes, guess what?
You could lose your home.
You could lose your home.
So it's really about looking at it through that financial lens and being honest about the costs.
Right. It's about challenging those traditional assumptions we have about what an asset really is.
Yeah, and that's where financial literacy comes in, being able to analyze your finances and make those informed decisions.
This is really making me rethink things, I have to say.
It's all about shifting perspectives, right?
Yeah, and being open to new ideas.
Exactly.
So now that we've kind of laid this foundation, what are some practical steps that people can take to start moving towards that right side of the quadrant?
Well, Kiyosaki outlines these 7 steps to finding your financial fast track. And these are all about taking action.
Okay, I'm ready to hear those steps because I think that's what people really want, those actionable takeaways.
Okay, so step 1 is mind your own business.
All right, so I'm picturing like calling out sick from work, starting a lemonade stand.
Not quite.
Okay.
Although that's a great example of entrepreneurship.
True.
But Kiyosaki is actually talking about focusing on building your asset column,
Okay.
not just your income column.
So not just how much you're earning, but what's actually generating that income.
Exactly. It's about creating those pipelines we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
those assets that are working for you.
Okay, so those income generating assets, that's minding your own business.
Yes. And then step 2 builds on that.
Okay.
It's take control of your cash flow.
All right, so this is where things like budgeting and tracking expenses come in.
Precisely. Kiyosaki believes that most people have no idea where their money is actually going.
Yeah, it's like it just disappeared.
They work, they get paid, and then they spend without really thinking about it.
Right, without a plan.
Exactly.
So awareness is key here.
Absolutely.
Like you can't improve your financial situation if you don't even know where you stand.
Right. You need to know your starting point before you can plot your course.
Okay, so steps 1 and 2, mind your own business, take control of your cash flow. This is good stuff. What's next on this financial fast track?
All right. Step 3 is know the difference between risk and risky. And I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up.
Oh, okay. How so?
Because most people, they just lump all risk together. They think investing is inherently risky, period.
Yeah, I can see that.
But Kiyosaki argues that a lot of what people perceive as risk is actually just fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of making a mistake.
And fear of losing money, right.
Exactly. And that fear often keeps them from taking action.
Yeah, it can be paralyzing.
But for someone who's financially literate and has done their research, the actual risk is much lower.
So it's like the more you know, the less risky things become.
Exactly.
Because you understand what you're getting into.
Right. You're making informed decisions, not just acting on emotion.
I like that. So it's about turning that perceived risk into an opportunity.
Exactly. It's about embracing calculated risk, not being reckless.
Okay, so mind your own business, take control of your cash flow, know the difference between risk and risky. We've got 3 down. What's step 4?
Step 4 is decide what kind of investor you want to be.
Ooh, okay, so this is where it gets personal.
It does. And Kiyosaki actually talks about 3 different types of investors. Those who seek problems, those who seek answers, and those who seek an expert.
Okay, seeking problems as an investor. That sounds counterintuitive.
I know, right?
But I'm curious to hear more about this.
Well, Kiyosaki believes that some of the most successful investors are actually the ones who actively seek out financial problems.
Yeah.
Because they see problems as opportunities.
So they're like the financial detectives,
Yeah.
always looking for a case to solve.
Exactly. They're not afraid of challenges. They embrace them.
All right, I'm starting to see how that mindset could be really valuable in the investing world.
And then you have your answer seekers.
Okay, so those are the folks who are constantly learning, researching.
They want to understand how things work. They dig deep.
They're the studious ones.
Yes. And then you have your expert seekers.
Those who rely on, financial advisors, mentors.
Yeah, they want someone to guide them, give them the answers.
And I think that's a natural starting point for a lot of people, but Kiyosaki does seem a bit cautious about this approach, right?
He does. He believes that while seeking guidance can be helpful, you ultimately need to take ownership of your own financial decisions.
Right, you don't want to just blindly follow someone else's advice without understanding it.
Exactly. You need to be an informed participant in your own financial journey.
Okay, so we've got problem seekers, answer seekers, and expert seekers. I like that breakdown.
Yeah, it's helpful to think about which category you might fall into.
All right, so we've covered the first 4 steps of Kiyosaki's financial fast track, and I'm already feeling like, okay, I need to take some notes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
There is, but it's all so valuable, and I think before we move on to the remaining steps, I want to circle back to something that Kiyosaki's really passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's this whole misconception about a house always being an asset.
Yeah, he really flips that traditional view on its head.
He does, because it's so ingrained in our culture,
Right.
Buy a house, that's the American dream.
Right, it's what we're taught to do.
Yeah, but he argues that a house is actually more of a liability.
Because it's always taking money out of your pocket.
Right, like you've got your mortgage payments, your property taxes.
Your insurance, maintenance.
And even if you don't have a mortgage, those other expenses are still there.
Exactly.
And if you stop paying those property taxes, you could lose your home.
It's a harsh reality, but it's important to acknowledge those costs.
And so Kiyosaki's point is that, while owning a home can provide shelter
Mm-hmm.
and a sense of security.
Yeah, it can be a place to raise a family, build memories.
Right. It's important to also view it through a financial lens and understand those true costs involved.
Yeah, and to not just automatically assume that it's an asset.
Yeah, because it might not be helping you build wealth in the long run.
Exactly. It's about being strategic with your finances and making sure your biggest purchase aligns with your overall goals.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing how Kiyosaki's perspective can really challenge those traditional assumptions we have about money.
And that's what's so valuable about exploring these ideas, right?
Absolutely. It's all about questioning those beliefs.
Mm-hmm. And finding what works for you.
So now that we've laid this foundation, and I'm already feeling like my mind is blown a little bit, I'm wondering if there's one concrete action our listener can take, right now,
Mm-hmm.
to start moving towards financial freedom. What's a good first step?
Start tracking your cash flow.
Ooh, simple but powerful.
Exactly. It's the foundation of financial awareness.
Because you can't improve what you don't measure, right?
Exactly. So look at your income, look at your expenses, and see where your money is actually going.
And I think a lot of people will be surprised.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, it's like, wait, where did all my money go?
Exactly. But once you have that awareness, you can start making intentional choices.
Right, about how you manage your money.
And remember, Kiyosaki emphasizes that even small changes can have a big impact over time.
Yeah, like that whole compound interest thing.
Exactly. It's all about consistency and making those small but impactful changes.
Okay, so track your cash flow. That's a great first step.
It's a game changer.
All right, so to sum up this incredible first part of our deep dive into the cash flow quadrant, we've learned about these 4 different quadrants.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the importance of financial literacy.
Absolutely.
And we've got those first few steps to finding our own financial fast track.
And a little food for thought about what a true asset really is.
Right. It's about challenging those assumptions and really taking control of our financial destinies.
I love it. And we're just getting started.
Oh, yeah, we've got so much more to unpack.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back after a quick break.
This is going to be good. Okay, welcome back. So much good stuff already, and we're just getting warmed up.
Right. The cash flow quadrant, it really is like a framework for thinking about your whole financial life.
It is. And before the break, we were diving into those 7 steps to finding your financial fast track.
Mm-hmm. Those are so key.
Yeah, those actionable steps that Kiyosaki outlines.
Yeah.
Cover the first 4.
Yep. Mind your own business.
Mm-hmm.
Take control of your cash flow.
Know the difference between risk and risky.
And decide what kind of investor you want to be.
Yes. So much good stuff packed into those. But we've got 3 more steps to go.
All right, let's jump back in. So step 5 is seek mentors.
Ah, yes. Mentors, so important.
Kiyosaki, he's really big on this.
I can see why.
It's about surrounding yourself with people who are already where you want to be.
Yeah, like learn from their experience. Right.
Exactly. Don't try to reinvent the wheel
Right. Find those who have walked the path before you.
because they've probably made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
And you can learn from those.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah,
like having a shortcut to wisdom, you know?
totally. And it's not just about like financial knowledge either.
Right.
It's about mindset. It's about support.
Yeah, like having someone to encourage you
Yeah, to hold you accountable.
because this journey can be tough
Oh,
sometimes.
definitely. It's not always easy. There are going to be ups and downs.
So having those mentors in your corner can make a huge difference.
Huge.
Okay, so seeking mentors, check. Step 6.
Step 6 is overcoming obstacles. And I think this one might be the most important.
Oh, okay. I can see why you'd say that.
Because let's be real, this journey to financial freedom, it's not always smooth sailing.
No, definitely not. There are going to be challenges along the way.
Exactly. And this is where like your mindset really comes into play.
Your resilience.
hmm Kiyosaki, he talks about mastering your emotions
Ooh.
because, fear, doubt, impatience, those can really sabotage your progress.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, think about it. How many times have you made a financial decision based on fear?
Oh, gosh, more times than I care to admit.
Right. Like maybe you panicked and sold an investment when the market dipped.
Or maybe you held on to something for too long because you were afraid of taking a loss.
Exactly. So it's about learning to control those impulses and make rational decisions even when things get tough.
Right. So it's almost like emotional intelligence is just as important as financial intelligence?
Totally. Kiyosaki even says that emotional intelligence is more important.
Wow, I didn't realize he went that far.
He does. Because, you can have all the knowledge in the world about investing,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can't manage your emotions, you're still going to make mistakes.
Right, you're going to self-sabotage.
Exactly. So this step, overcoming obstacles, it's really about building that inner strength
Yeah, developing that resilience.
because you're going to need it.
You are. Okay, so seeking mentors, overcoming obstacles. What's the final step on this fast track?
Okay, this one is always interesting. Step 7 is the power of faith.
Now, I've heard Kiyosaki talk about this before, and
Yeah.
it's not what you typically think of when you think about like finances.
Right. It's not about like praying for your stocks to go up or anything like that.
No, definitely not. So what does he mean by faith in this context?
Well, I think he's using the term faith in a broader sense.
Okay.
It's about believing in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
believing in your ability to achieve your goals.
Right, like having that confidence, that inner knowing that you can do this.
Yeah, exactly. And also believing in the power of persistence.
Okay, so it's not just about having a goal, it's about having the tenacity to keep going even when it gets tough.
Exactly. Because, there are going to be times when you want to quit,
Oh, absolutely.
when you're frustrated, you're doubting yourself.
When you're second guessing everything.
Right. But that's when you need to tap into that faith,
That belief.
that inner strength.
Because if you don't believe in yourself, who will?
Exactly. And I think that's really the essence of this step.
It's so powerful.
It is. It's about having that unwavering belief that you can achieve what you set out to do.
All right, so let's recap those final 3 steps. Seek mentors, overcoming obstacles, and the power of faith. Those are some deep concepts.
They are, and I think they really speak to the holistic nature of this journey to financial freedom.
It's not just about the numbers, right?
Right. It's about your mindset, your emotions, your beliefs.
Yeah. It's about aligning all aspects of yourself with your financial goals.
Exactly. It's about becoming the kind of person who can achieve financial freedom.
Okay, so we've explored those 7 steps, but there's one more piece of the cash flow quadrant that I want to make sure we unpack before we wrap up, and that's the 5 levels of investors.
Ah, yes. Those are really helpful for like assessing where you're at.
And where you want to go.
Exactly. Because not everyone is starting at the same place on this journey.
No, definitely not. So remind me, what are those 5 levels?
All right. So level 0 at the very bottom is the financially uneducated investor.
Okay.
And this is someone who, like, they might avoid investing altogether, or they might just blindly follow someone else's advice without doing their own research.
Right, they're not really taking ownership of their finances.
Exactly.
Okay, and then level 1.
Level 1 is the saver. So this person, they're good at putting money aside,
Okay.
but they might just be keeping it in a basic savings account.
Yeah. Not really doing much with it.
Right. And those low interest rates, they're not really going to help you build wealth.
Especially with inflation these days.
Exactly.
Okay, so saving is important, but it's not enough.
Right. You need to be investing that money to really see it grow.
Got it. What about level 2?
Level 2 is the debtor.
Ooh. Okay, this one sounds a little scary.
It can be. This is someone who's using debt to fund their lifestyle.
So, like, racking up credit card debt, maybe taking out loans to buy things they can't afford.
Exactly. And they might feel wealthy in the short term.
Yeah, because they have all this stuff.
Right. But it's all built on foundation of debt.
Which is not sustainable in the long run.
Not at all.
Okay, so levels 0 through 2, those are kind of like the cautionary tales, right?
Yeah, they highlight those common financial pitfalls that we want to avoid.
Right, it's about recognizing those bad habits and making a conscious effort to change them.
Exactly. So where does the real investing journey begin?
Okay, I'm ready to hear about the good stuff.
All right, level 3 is the investor.
Ah, now we're talking.
This is where people are really starting to take control of their finances.
So they're learning about different investment options.
Exploring different asset classes.
Maybe starting to build a portfolio.
Exactly. They're actively participating in their financial journey.
I love it. They're like the students of the game, eager to learn and grow.
Totally. And then we move up to level 4, which is the long-term investor.
Okay, so they've graduated from student to, like, seasoned pro.
Yeah, something like that.
They've got a plan, they're disciplined, they're in it for the long haul.
Exactly. They're not getting swayed by those short-term market fluctuations.
They're focused on the big picture.
Yes. And then finally we reach the top level, level 5.
Right, this is the pinnacle.
The pinnacle, the capital.
Wow, that sounds impressive.
It is. This is someone who not only manages their own money, but can also raise capital,
Okay.
create businesses. You know, they understand how to make money work for them on a grand scale.
They're like the masters of the game.
Exactly. They've really reached that next level.
That's inspiring. But I think what's so great about these levels is that they're not like boxes that you get stuck in.
Right.
It's more like a ladder that you can climb.
Yeah, it's about continuous growth and development.
And you can start at any level and work your way up.
Absolutely. It's never too late to start learning and improving your financial literacy.
So I guess the first step is figuring out like where you are on that ladder right now.
Exactly. Be honest with yourself about your current financial situation.
And then create a plan to level up.
I love it.
All right, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. The cash flow quadrant.
Those 7 steps.
5 levels of investors. My mind is officially blown.
Good. I'm glad we could spark some new ideas.
Oh, definitely. But, you know, we're not quite done yet. There's one more piece of Kiyosaki's wisdom that I want to make sure we explore.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Well, it's something we touched on earlier, but I think it deserves its own dedicated segment.
All right, let's hear it.
It's those 3 types of investors: the problem seekers, the answer seekers, and the expert seekers.
Ah, yes. Those different investor personalities. I'm ready to dive deeper into that.
Me too, because I think understanding these types can really help us figure out, like, what kind of investor we want to be.
And how we can leverage our strengths and maybe address some of our weaknesses.
Exactly. So let's take a closer look at each type and see which one resonates with us the most.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we're back and ready to explore these different investor personalities. I'm really curious to hear more about this.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to think about how people approach investing.
So let's start with those problem seekers, because that one always, like, throws me off a bit.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like, shouldn't we be trying to avoid problems, especially when it comes to our finances?
Right, you'd think so. But Kiyosaki argues that some of the most successful investors are actually the ones who actively seek out problems.
Okay, so they're not afraid of challenges.
No, not at all. They see problems as opportunities.
So, like, they're not running away from a financial mess, they're running towards it.
Yeah, pretty much. Because they know that every problem has a solution.
And finding that solution can lead to, like, big rewards.
Exactly. It's about having that entrepreneurial mindset.
Like, where others see obstacles, they see potential.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to get their hands dirty and figure things out.
Okay, I can see how that could be a really powerful approach.
It is. It's all about seeing those diamonds in the rough.
Okay, so problem seekers, they're like the trailblazers.
Yeah, the innovator.
All right, what about answer seekers? Those folks seem more like the the studious types.
Absolutely. They're all about knowledge and research.
They're the ones reading all the books, taking all the courses.
Yeah, they want to understand the market inside and out.
So they're making informed decisions, not just like winging it.
Exactly. They're taking a calculated approach.
Okay, I can definitely relate to that. I like to feel like I understand what I'm getting into before I invest in anything.
Me too. I think it's important to do your due diligence.
Absolutely. Okay, and then we have our expert seekers.
Yeah, these are the folks who rely on, financial advisors, mentors.
And I think that's totally valid, especially when you're like first starting out.
Oh, for sure. It can be really helpful to have someone to guide you.
But, Kiyosaki does caution against relying solely on experts.
Yeah, he believes that you need to take ownership of your own financial decisions.
Right. You don't want to just blindly follow someone else's advice.
Exactly. You need to understand the reasoning behind it.
Make sure it aligns with your goals.
And that's why financial literacy is so important.
Yes, because it gives you the power to evaluate that advice and make informed choices.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got our problem seekers, our answer seekers, and our expert seekers. Do you think, someone has to be just one type? Or can you be a combination?
I think it's definitely more of a spectrum.
Okay.
Maybe you're primarily an answer seeker, but you also see the value in seeking guidance from a mentor.
Right. Or maybe you're naturally drawn to problems, but you also do your research to make sure you're not just jumping in blindly.
Exactly. I think it's all about finding what works best for you.
And being self-aware.
Yes. Knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you can leverage those to achieve your financial goals.
Wow, this has been such an incredible deep dive.
It really has. The Cashflow Quadrant, it's so much more than just a book,
It's like a whole philosophy for thinking about money.
and life.
Yeah. It's about taking control. It's about empowerment. It's about creating the future that you want.
Absolutely. And it's accessible to anyone.
Anyone who's willing to put in the work, right?
Exactly. It's not about get-rich-quick schemes or anything like that.
No, it's about education. It's about mindset. It's about taking consistent action.
And it's about believing in yourself.
Yes. That power of faith, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so to wrap up this amazing deep dive, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your insights.
It's been my pleasure. This is such an important topic.
It is. And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired and empowered to take control of their financial futures.
I hope so too. Because financial freedom, it's within reach for anyone who's willing to go for it.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Find those mentors, build your knowledge, and never stop believing in yourself.
Those are words to live by.
All right, folks, that's a wrap on this deep dive into the Cashflow Quadrant. Until next time.